Hi everyone. I don't know if you've been there. I feel like we all have, where you sit down just behind grandmother and she starts to type in HTTPS. I know it's a little, us millennials and Gen Zs are like, but according to Forbes, grandma does want to know about digital banking too. So let's break it down further right after this. Good morning, and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat, a show that covers the need to revive, survive, and adapt to new normal of COVID-19. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us on Facebook, smash that follow button and continue seeing content that will help you understand and manage your money. Today, we're discussing whether digital banking is safe for senior citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. We have the great privilege of talking to Kwame Blanchfield. He is a senior manager, group marketing and communications at Republic Bank Limited. Full disclaimer: we were once colleagues, like ages ago. It feels like it, Kwame. He possesses a master's in business administration, and he's also an auto enthusiast. Loves the outdoors. So let's bring Kwame in and talk about that segment in the marketing we call the boomers. How are you going?
I'm good, and thank you for allowing me to be part of your straight off the bat video sessions and digital sessions with your membership. So thank you for inviting BATT to be part of these informative series.
Awesome. And you've been here before, so welcome back. So before we actually get into this idea of senior citizens, what would you consider yourself in this age bracket, Corey?
I want to fancy myself a millennial, but I won't be able to be that. So probably I'm the Gen Z, perhaps. But
Mm,
I like to consider myself young at heart, so I definitely won't ascribe myself to any of the older sectors that perhaps I'm more aligned to right now.
mm.
But a millennial young at heart.
So we'll say you're toeing the line because then you're able to speak to both, the young folks,
Correct.
as well as the folks who need to get that very pragmatic and simple explanation on digital banking, correct?
Oh yes, correct.
Okay, cool. So, we when we think about online banking, a lot of people have this perception, and we could blame Matrix or the Hollywood, where somebody is in a hoodie on their laptop and just keyboard typing away trying to hack at everybody's bank account. So, for those out there who aren't familiar, what would be the most simple definition of what banking online is?
Yeah. Banking online literally is that the ability to do your banking transactions online, or at least certain type of banking transactions that could be facilitated online, those to be done online. And basically it is accessing your bank account through online banking on the internet, where you're able to view your account balances, transfer funds, pay bills, even pay friends, and look at your loan payments, your investment accounts, and a range of other options that you cannot necessarily do otherwise, or you will also have to go into the branch to do. Online banking allows you to do it for yourself, allowing you to self serve, as it were, and do these things for yourself instead of going into the branch.
I feel, yeah, we can't get much clearer than that. And we do live in a society. I remember reading this article about, the Caribbean per capita has the most amount of buildings and the like for banks, because we physically want to go inside and say, okay, cool, I have this money. So we're living in this world now where Amazon is the number one visited e-commerce website in the Caribbean, across the Caribbean, which includes Trinidad and Tobago. So for those who aren't familiar with this, management of funds based on what they're seeing on the screen, what kind of a surety can you give that person?
Yeah. So basically, what we can guarantee, and this is not only a position of Republic Bank, but the banking industry in Trinidad in particular, we take very seriously customers' security and their financial confidentiality of all of their data. So systems built for online banking are traditionally assessed for any kind of vulnerability scans, any kind of threat externally where someone is coming to hack. There are a bunch of anti fraud and safety measures in place on the back end of persons' products and services to ensure that they are not subjected to any type of unauthorized use. And the online banking themselves, the platform itself, is secure in that you need your own ID and password to sign in, your own customer ID and a PIN, whatever that authentication method is from the respective bank. So we know it's you signing in, just like you should be able to keep your own PIN on your own debit or credit card to yourself. So it is the same with internet banking. And that's the thing, Pauline, where the behavior of how one behaved in the physical world should still continue in the digital world, where you're protecting your PIN. You should be able to protect your password. If you're in an environment where you don't trust who is around you, you shouldn't be opening up your screen and being conducting your internet banking. So the onus is on both parties. Banks to continuously employ measures to engender trust and confidence by persons to use these digital products and services, and end users to know that the banks are doing their part to keep data safe, and there are tools that they can employ, that they can get from the banks to see if someone is unauthorized and accessing their account. So there's the email alerts from banks where if a debit or a credit card transaction is done on your debit or credit card, you immediately get that email. So if you have your cards in your possession and you haven't done a transaction and you see an email saying that, look, there's a $50 transaction being done at this store, immediately you know it's not you and you can contact your bank. And those are some of the mechanisms that and the latest tools that have been introduced so that customers know exactly what they are doing with their finances and if they are the ones conducting those transactions.
I think what you mentioned there is so important. The idea of what you've done offline still applies online, because we've had in previous sessions on the Straight and the Back show, and you guys could check that out on YouTube, where we had a discussion around social engineering and how folks are making their way into people's lives with the intention of, finding out more and getting their information so they can get their money transferred illegally. So when it comes to this online space, I recently had lunch with my aunt, and I was like, hey, we can actually just Google certain things. She's like, oh, she just hands me the phone. She's like, you do it. I don't know how to do these things. And it's interesting because a lot of people, she's in that 60 to 70 category. They have these tools, but don't fully understand how to use it. So when it comes to someone who's watching this and saying, okay, cool, I am interested in sign up for online banking, what's the steps that they need to take?
Yeah. So each bank is different. Basically, it starts with filling out an application form, an internet banking application form, and sending that into your branch. Some banks now have the ability where if you are an existing customer, all you need to do is have your debit card or your account number for whatever product it is, whether it's a loan or a deposit product or an investment account, and the PIN associated with that deposit account, and you can register yourself for online banking without stepping foot into the branch. And that's the case with Republic Bank, where if you are an existing customer but you don't have online banking, all you need to do is to go online, Republic Online TT or republictt.com, click on the online banking and register by following the simple steps there, which will ask you for your deposit account number and your PIN, and then a series of security passwords so you know it's yourself. And we know on the back end it's Pauline signing in or it's Kwame signing in. And you are able to onboard yourself probably within 5-10 minutes, depending on your familiarity and comfort level with screens and technology. Um, Perhaps pre-pandemic that may have taken about 3 to 5 days to be done, and you would have had to come into the bank. Now you're able to self-serve, you're able to satisfy that request for yourself by staying at the comfort of your home or even office, and onboarding yourself, as it will, registering yourself for online banking. So there are ways. Each bank is different, but basically there is a way and there is a pathway for persons to register for online banking, and that is a desire for most, if not all, of the banks, primarily because of the convenience, Pauline, and the safety as well in terms of customers seeing the information. They see it if they come into the branch, but you see a lot more in one view when you're online. And also because of the migration, from an environmental perspective, to reduce carbon footprint. And the banks are doing that by taking a look at, do we need to send all of these deposit statements and credit card statements to persons who have online banking, where they are able to see their transactions online. I myself pay one particular utility online. I don't need to get that bill, but I repeatedly get it. And an area of my house is just littered, filled with that particular utility bill coming every month, and there's no need to. So those are some of the things the banks are looking at, and online banking allows us to do that, to help the environment, help customers be more convenient and access their bank accounts 24/7, right? One of the benefits of online banking is at 11 o'clock in the night, you can view your balance. 11 o'clock in the night, most banks are closed, only the ATMs are open.
I like what you said there about the environmental side of things, because I think I'm always want to be like, why we need to print all these things? Think about the trees, and I think for any business owners watching this, please ask your customers if they need a receipt, because 9 out of 10 times we don't really need it. For me, I remember I was doing a transaction that was $20, and somebody was like, why would you even, that's no money. Why would you put that on your card? I was like, so I could track everything. So I don't need a receipt. And I think we also need to be mindful of those things, because habit has a tendency to override practicality.
Yes.
So that's such a good point. So we're gonna go on a break, but when we come back, we're gonna talk about these things we always have in our hands, the devices that we're underutilizing. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat, a show that covers the need to revive, survive, and adapt to the new normal of COVID 19. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing whether digital banking is safe for senior citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. Spoiler alert, yes. The answer is completely yes, definitely yes, right? But we have the great privilege of speaking to Kwame. He is the Senior Manager, Group Marketing and Communications at Republic Bank Limited, and we want to bring him in to have the discussion around what exactly do we need? What's the equipment that is required? Because earlier, Kwame did mention about the process of, different banks have different processes, but the general consensus is this is your information. Go home and sign up for the online banking on your device, and then you have access to your transactions 24/7. But what does that look like when it comes to that equipment? Do you need a CPU for the Gen Z's young people out there? CPU is this thing that it's kind of big and it doesn't really move like a laptop. Are you fine with your phone? What type of equipment do you need to access your online banking, Kwame?
Yeah. So again, different banks, different systems, but generally, a computer with internet access. Let's start there before we even speak about the mobile device. Let's look at the computer on an internet access computer that has internet. You are able to sign up for online banking for your respective bank, whatever their procedure is. And once you have been able to sign on and register, you are now able to go online through the computer. So basically, the equipment you need for online banking is a computer with internet, right? That is connected and you have internet access. You either through the different banks go in and apply for the online banking feature and you are signed up, or you can onboard yourself, you can register yourself depending on the bank. So that's what you need, computer and internet access. Mobile devices, some banks require you to first register and sign up on internet banking through a computer, through the desktop as it were. And then to sign up for your mobile banking with your mobile app, obviously you need a mobile device, which is probably an iPad or a mobile phone, smartphone. So you are able to get your banking on this mobile device. You can, and this is where it gets a bit tricky, but it's not. You can access your online banking through the browser or through typing in www.republictt.com or whatever bank.com. But on the mobile device, you can also access your online banking through the mobile app. And that's where the mobile app really has taken off. That's where apps in general have taken off. They have been created for the mobile devices. So instead of person with a mobile device like a phone or tablet typing in www.republictt.com, you are able to swipe on a screen and click on an icon, and there you go, you're into the online banking. So that's really the difference between desktop banking, as it were, and online banking or digital mobile banking, where you are able to do the mobile banking on these mobile devices without typing in www. You just go to an app. But on the desktop, you can't swipe, there is no app. So you have to type in the www.republictt.com. So that's what you need to be able to get internet and online banking. And basically, you're in the game from there.
So what if the person doesn't have access to a desktop or CPU, and for those out there, we try. I think it's advisable not to sign up on a public computer for your online banking. I think it's safe to say that, right, Kwame?
Yeah, it's generally not safe. It's preferred that you use your own personal device. Again, it's different. I know with Republic Bank, we require you to first onboard yourself or sign up with for online banking through a desktop. And requirement is that you have a smartphone, so that we use that as a form of another form of identifying who you are. So we can send you either a one-time password or some other prompt that comes to the phone, and then you click on that, and then we know that it is Paulino Kwame on the other end. But generally, more times than not, the requirement is to start from your own device and a desktop. Some banks can allow you to register for online banking through a mobile device, and then you can download even the mobile app. The public bank is a bit different, but all banks have online banking services for their customers, for those persons in their golden years, as it were. And I think it should be availed. There's no reason, Pauline, why, if the seniors are comfortable a bit on Facebook, they should not be on online banking. They're already exhibiting the behavior, the confidence, the ability to click, see screens, look at icons, right? So they have that lexicon being developed, that skill set, as it were, being developed slowly as it is. They may just be on one social media platform, but they are online. And that's the thing. And there should be confidence that, this is safe as well, and I will be able to do my banking much more conveniently, safer. And for many persons who have challenges with their own health and don't want to be outside, given we're still in a pandemic, and they may be challenged for where they are in relation to the branch, so there are transport issues and general health issues. Online banking serves that need and helps bridge that gap. So it's something that I would ask all persons, all of the listeners, all senior citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly those who are online but not online, to become fully online.
That was a lot of that was a sense of a matrix there, but I think we got it. And you are right when it comes to this demographic that's on Facebook, because it's my job to know the metrics. And actually, the over 60 group has been the fastest growing group on Facebook over the last 5 years or so, because there's been an exit for the younger folks to TikTok, obviously, and the millennials are feeling more comfortable in Instagram. So Facebook is where it's at for our grandparents. Let's just have them have that. But I think it's a great point, because if you are comfortable being on that platform, looking at your grandkids' photos and keeping up to date with your children, you do have the capacity to access your funds online. So let's talk about, is there the fee association? What's that like? Does a person, because I mean, I don't want to take it for granted that any and everybody knows. Do you have to pay every time you sign in? What exactly are you paying for when you or what are you paying for when you sign for online banking?
Yeah. As far as I know, to sign up for online banking for at least the major commercial banks in Trinidad and Tobago that I am aware of, there is no charge. It's totally free. And so are all of the services there are in internet banking. If there's a requirement or a request, sorry, for a service that terminates in the branch, there may be a cost. So, for example, what do I mean by that? You go online, you register for online banking, there is no charge. So you are inside your online banking application with your bank, you transfer funds between one account to another, there's no charge. You pay your credit card, you pay your utility bills, there's no charge. You request in that online banking application that you're online, there is a feature that you can make a request to your branch to help you with. And there may be a request that I need a manager's draft um, done up, because I need to pay someone and they want the payment in a manager's check, perhaps away, or you're purchasing a car or something like that. When you go into the branch, you will eventually pay for that manager's check as you would normally do. But you initiate the request on online banking, that there is no charge for. But when you go to collect the check as you would normally, there would be a charge. So generally, most of the transactions, most of the stuff that you do online banking, it's free. They are free, and even to register, there is no charge.
I think that's excellent news, especially now where a lot of us are cutting corners in terms of making sure that we are surviving whatever, the other side of this looks like with COVID 19. But when it comes to, going into the bank, we tend to have, or accessing your funds, we tend to have a specific habit of knowing that, okay, I have to go get this check, I have to, collect my pension. What are some of the ways that folks could incorporate online banking in their day-to-day, you know, how they pay their bills in their lives?
Sure. So in many instances, when persons go into the branch, and I have actually been to one of our branches and kind of taken a look at the behavior of all customers coming in and the type of transactions they are doing. Um, Most of the senior citizens, most of the pensioners are actually coming to encash checks, their pension checks. So your question relates to what can they do from online banking in relation to their banking. And this has been a push of the Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Finance to get as much as possible pensioners their monthly pension deposited, directly credited to their deposit account at the banks, so that they are able now, they being the pensioners, to access these accounts and these funds either electronically or in person. And electronically, we mean through the use of a debit card at the ATM and point of sale. If this pensioner has his funds, and let's just say I am that pensioner, Kwame, has his funds, his pension being credited to his account, right? As a pensioner on online banking, if I normally have to pay for whomever, a gardener, or I have to pay someone to help see about, my health sometimes, I can do that online. Yeah. So I can pay my bills online, my utility bills. I can pay if I have a credit card online, I can pay that. So no longer do I have to come into the bank or go to an ATM to do that. I can stay at home. And if I need to pay anyone who I would have borrowed money from during the month, I can also repay them once they have a bank account at another bank. Doesn't even have to be my own bank account. So local interbank transfers is a big feature that all of the banks have on their internet banking platforms and is a widely growing used feature. Persons are sending funds to pay for services and goods received and rendered. So, person who is online and is receiving their pension, they can be able to see when their pension has hit their account, right? They are now able to do transactions that they would have had to come into the bank to do, right? Either pay credit card, pay utility bills, pay a loan, even transfer funds. And they can monitor at their own convenience at 1 o'clock in the morning or 1 p.m. their balance and look at their financial status throughout the month as the month progresses.
I can imagine someone watching this going, oh, I just learned how to navigate Facebook. Now I have to learn something else. What say you to that? Because you did mention a few things about, having to going to the branch, and now we're trying to avoid having to engage with individuals unnecessarily because we're trying to avoid that C word. So what would be the benefits of learning, because this is going to be a whole new process for someone to learn all over again? Any advice for them on that?
Yeah, it's not as daunting as it seems, and that's what I said before. Basically, because there is this habit of, well, I know how to click the mouse, I know certain icons. I understand that challenge, and it's an issue of familiarity and trust, and that's the access that we need to look at and to work on, familiarity and trust, so that these this particular cohort feels a bit more comfortable naturally, with online banking. And it's quite to be quite fair, many of our senior citizens, if you look at that cohort and you sub segment it, The earlier retirees may be a bit more familiar and comfortable with the technology than those a little bit later on in their years. And that's because of when the technology became global and prevalent, and our adoption, right? Where we were on the adoption curve of that technology, as it were. Those persons who were now or just recently retired, when internet banking and Facebook came out, they were still working. So they were able to know about this a bit more in their in their employable time and sign up for it and be part of the movement. Because you were working, you had to have online banking if you wanted more convenient ways of doing your banking. And so you carry that behavior into your retirement age. There would be some of them who, even when Facebook and these platforms became very popular in the early 2000s, in the first decade of the 2000s, right at mid-decade, they were already retired. So they were like going about their life, and they were okay with just the normal phone, right? The first generation or second generation smart mobile phones. And they prefer that perhaps still. But now we have moved now where, to your point, every Monday morning it seems as if the interface is changing. I now get accustomed to Facebook. I now need to learn something new. And we, as our own younger folks, sometimes we have those challenges. Why isn't my phone working well? Oh, I need to update the software. I need to update. So these are some of the challenges that the older folks are experiencing and perhaps just don't have the patience for, right? Because, they haven't been accustomed to that. But those of us who were more ingrained in that and become digital natives, we understand that as part of living in a digital world. You have to refresh your application every so often. Your user interface, where you touch stuff every 3 or 5 years, that will undergo a refresh. So us in the digital world understands that. And I guess it's to see how we communicate that to our older folks so they don't become a bit flustered, and we ourselves become flustered at times. So it's quite natural if they are. But that's the way digital is going.
That's such an important point. I take for granted because I've been in digital space for over a decade. You just know that things are always changing, and a lot of times, not everybody adapts very well to that. So we're gonna go on a break, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more to Kwame about this software updating and why it's important, because there's a definitely connection between accessibility to your funds and making sure that your software has been updated. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat, a show that covers the need to revive, survive, and adapt to a new normal of COVID-19. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from YouTube, smash that subscribe button and follow our page to continue seeing content that help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing something that is important for your grandparents, and that's whether or not it's safe for them to access banking online in Trinidad and Tobago. We have the great privilege of talking to Kwame, and we are going to bring him back in because we want to have this conversation about accessing your funds and the importance of software updating. If you're just joining us, we did mention, going into the bank, sign up for online banking, accessing your funds on your laptop or your CPU, as well as downloading the app, which I think we probably need to touch on a little bit more, Kwame. So when it comes to online banking, you can access it on your laptop, but then there's another element for your phone, which is the application on your phone. What is first and foremost the difference between accessing your online banking on your mobile website versus the mobile application?
Sure. So basically, that's the difference between online banking and mobile banking. And mobile banking is a subset of online banking, but generally, um, online banking means the ability to do your banking online, meaning you are not in the branch, you're on a computer, or you're on a tablet, or you're on a smartphone, a mobile device, right? And it has to be a smartphone. Not all mobile phones are smartphones, but all smartphones are mobile phones, right? Because there have mobile phones that do not have the ability to access the internet. And that's what you need, a mobile phone that has the ability to access the internet. Once you have that, basically the way you access your internet or online banking generally when you have a mobile device is through the mobile app. So instead of typing in, which is very inconvenient if you have a mobile device, typing in republictt.com each time, or First Citizens of Scotia, RBC, as the case may be, GMMB, Answer Bank. You access through a swipe on your screens the bank's icon for their mobile banking. So, how do you access that? How do you get that? If it's in the case of a iPhone, you go to the Apple Store and you type in your bank, and you would generally see their mobile banking application as an app, and you click on that. It downloads and it comes onto the screen of your mobile device, whether it's your tablet or your mobile phone. And that is what you access now and you use to access your online banking. So anytime you want to do your banking through your mobile device, instead of typing in www dot, you swipe and you look for that icon and you click on it, and voila, it asks you to authenticate yourself, put in your ID and password, and there you have your access to your banking. Your physical computer, the CPU, the desktop, doesn't allow you to do that. It's not a mobile device. It's stationary. You don't walk around with your big computer everywhere you go. You walk around with your mobile phone, or perhaps even your iPad, but definitely not your desktop. You don't lug that around everywhere you go. So that doesn't satisfy the definition for mobile banking. And as such, you wouldn't get mobile apps there. You would access your online banking by typing in on your desktop. But mobile banking, your mobile phone and your tablets, you access generally through the app that you would have downloaded through the App Store, on the bank's for the bank, for each bank.
Now, when it comes to software updating, I think we're all familiar with it. If you have a Windows, if you have Apple, you get that notification saying, there's an update waiting for you. Why is it important for us as users to ensure to update when that notification comes?
Yeah. So basically, what there are there are bugs and fixes and other changes that each software application undergoes from time to time. So the phones themselves, the phone itself is the hardware, right? But inside of the phone, the guts inside of the phone, what makes the thing works is the application, right? And so particularly over the passage of time, because there are more demands being made by us, the consumers, that we want more stuff and we want to do more things on our phone, the application needs to be updated to do that. So the application may have, for example, on our phones, just been able to do simple voice and video, but now we want to do a ton more. We want to upload at faster speeds. We want to download at faster speeds. The application will need to be updated to facilitate that on the phone itself, right? So that's one. Then there's also the internet banking application. Sometimes some banks update their internet banking application to cater for new products and services, to add in new fraud measures, to fix any kind of bugs or little kind of small little customer service issues that may be there. And they will update their app. In many instances, the customer doesn't have to do anything. And in some instances, the customers may have to do depending on the change out that is needed. But if it's a small, minor upgrade, the customer will get an email, either from their banks or from or some other or some other entity relating to that particular um, cause, and lets them know, hey, you need to upgrade the latest application on your phone. Sometimes you would see the phones themselves telling you just leave your phone at least 50 or 75% charge overnight. You're going to see we are doing this upgrade at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. So there are ways in which, even if you don't do it, the actual device itself will actually push the upgrade on the application. But that's why an application is needed. Just think of the car itself as a hardware, right? This is the car, the phone itself is the hardware, but the engine is the application. And to be in the game, you need to be at 100 horsepower, but your car is only at 50 horsepower. So you want to upgrade your engine to 100 horsepower because you need to go faster. You want to ensure that whatever is the case, this is the standard. So you will now be upgraded to 100 horsepower. So it is with the phone. The application is the engine. So the hardware itself may remain viable for a bit, but the application itself is what is changing, and that is what will go up to the 100 horsepower. So eventually, as well, the hardware changes, right? That's why your iPhone of today or your Samsung of today is not the same iPhone and Samsung of 10 years ago. Similar, but definitely not the same.
Excellent point, Kwame. And I think the idea of, looking at your phone as a shell, it's such a good point. We have a question from Giselle Mark. It's a question that I think a lot of us want the answer to, but I'm pretty certain you could probably answer it from a public bank's perspective. Giselle wants to know, where can seniors go for real time support?
Great. Excellent question. And the branch, I would say the branch is not always the most convenient for the type of support the customers needs at the time, particularly when it's a lot more hand holding. And I use hand holding in inverted commas. Hand holding could be done virtually. I would say the bank's contact centers is a very good place to start. The bank's call centers, most banks have that where they kind of gather all the calls that would normally go to the branch. They can facilitate some of these requests. And I know in the case of Republic Bank, you call that call center and you are able to indicate what your challenge is, particularly if you have or you need assistance signing up for online banking, you will get that particular support and hand holding. So real time support to the bank's call centers, and if not, the branches. There's always the online where you can send email requests, but depending on how urgent your need is, I would suggest a call into the contact centers of each branch, of each bank.
Yeah, and I also, from my experience with another bank, they actually have a separate email, secure email to reach out and they respond for that. So, um, definitely emails would be my first preference. But yeah, so that's great. So we go on a quick break because we want to close off. We have a couple more minutes to go, but I want to have the discussion around keeping our financial information safe, and what type of resources does the bank offer senior citizens when it comes to digital banking. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat, a show that covers the need to revive, survive, and adapt to the new normal of COVID 19. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us from Facebook, smash that like button to follow our page and continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money, because We all need it, especially now. Today, we're discussing whether digital banking is safe for senior citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, and we're joined by Kwame Blanchfield. He is the Senior Manager Group Marketing and Communications at Republic Bank Limited. So, we're going to bring him back in and have the discussion because, I mean, I don't know about you guys watching this, but I have been in situations where I just want to, like, Granny, stop typing so slowly. You don't need to have to type out the entire URL address, it comes up automatically. I don't know. Is it just me? They struggle. They struggle. And I don't want to listen because they're like, I know more than you. But when it comes to I want to talk about the safety in a minute. But before I do, I actually had this question pop up before, but I forgot to ask you. Some folks might be saying, I can't see very well. That issue of, because you have the option for your phone to have a bigger text or so forth. What would you advise somebody who has issues with hearing and seeing when it comes to online banking?
Yeah, and that's it, right? There are virtual assistants, but not at the level of the applications on some of these internet banking just yet. So persons with certain um, if they're impairments, whether it be hearing or a little bit challenged in sight, you know, if there's a trusted family member, right, to help them with the onboarding, but where it needs the financial or the personal information to be authenticated, that should be the actual person signing on to online banking doing that. So what do I mean? There are a series of things you have to fill out: where you live, your first name, your last name, date of birth, etc. Those things could be filled out by the person helping granny or granddad. But when it comes now to granny or granddad, put in your user ID and put in your password, that should be granny and granddad doing that, right? And this is where I spoke to earlier, the issue of trust, right? Particularly with some of the senior citizens who need help for whatever reason it might be for online banking. To your point, these impairments, whether they be physical or even the fear of doing it digitally. I want to ask my nephew, I want to ask my grandson to help me. And the fear is that in they helping me, will they know my information? Will they be able to swindle me out of my little hard-earned kakada at the end of the month that I get, right? And so we have heard stories of pensioners, being relieved of their pensions. So we do get that, and that's why the bank is saying, get that person who you trust to help you. Because, Pauline, particularly amongst the senior citizens, and this is a stat globally, particularly in the US, there's a difference between doing your own banking and who manages your finance. And in the States, the extended family helps the granny and granddad manage their finance. So there's a bit of trust. I'm not saying that there isn't distrust and there aren't any instances of persons swindling funds, but how does that apply to us here? To your point, you are doing granny, you go stop typing it so slowly. So that means somebody is there assisting granny. And that's where we need to be clear on the rules and demarcation and have that trust where, okay, I'm helping granny here. Granny, this is where you need to type in your phone numbers, remember it, write it down on a piece of paper, do show it to me, but you need to remember them phone numbers. If you could remember the year you're born, you could remember four numbers, right? And you remember them four numbers, granny, and you turn your back. But that doesn't happen because granny still wants you to be there. And that's how we get that. That's how we have to overcome that. We know there is a assistance needed to help granny because granny can't see too good or granny need help reading and understanding. Then we do that, and then where there's granny's assistance and granny's input only, that's where we let granny know she needs to put this in only her, and you turn your back or you walk away and come back.
So, Kwame, I had to write down the kakada because I was just like, is that Trinidad slingo? Do I need to learn about this? Is this you speaking to our potential audience? What you have to
Yeah,
give me that.
I remember my grandmother saying, when I get my little kakada, I'll get you something at the end of the month. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking for this kakada, not knowing it was a little bit of a old age pension at the time.
Well, for those watching, or if you have your grandparents, please let them comment below and give us a translation. When it comes to, because there's something you were saying the other day, I think we definitely need to point on as well this idea of trust. I remember because I am in a space of in digital, a lot of people assume I just know about technology, right? But technology is this broad spectrum. And I remember my landlord asking me when I used to live in Barbados to come and help him out with something. And you'd see all the passwords written down on pieces of paper all over his office. So when it comes to protecting and understanding what needs to be done for your finances in online banking, sort of give us maybe one or two instances where we need to avoid being swindled.
Yeah, definitely. That's number one there, Pauline. Your favorite diary, your black book, that has all of the passwords written out. Because the more digital products and services and applications we encounter as as an entity, as a being, the more passwords and IDs we are being asked to generate. And there are only so many things we can remember, right? Because if you don't have a password for your own bank, it's your PIN, it's for your internet, it's for something else. So there are about 5 or 6 or 7 passwords you have to remember monthly, right? And then these passwords expire. And then you have to refresh these passwords. And then you're remembering, well, what was the last password? And so it's no end of confusion. You need to ensure that you find a way to digitally store and back up all records, including passwords. Have it stored on your device. As I said, just as how you wouldn't necessarily give out very liberally, and you shouldn't your debit and credit card PIN and give anyone your debit and credit card. So it shouldn't be with you just handing over your personal devices, particularly unlocked, right? Someone may say, well, okay, let me make a phone call, and not unbeknownst to you, they are not doing any phone call. They are swiping, looking for notes and photos on your phone. And if they are very skilled, they can do that very quickly, even before you understand what has happened, right? So protect as much as possible all your passwords. The banks will ask that you refresh your password every so often, every 90 days. So that's what you do. You also, to ensure that it's you on the other end doing a transaction, each bank will encourage you to sign up for their own internet banking email alert service, so that anytime a transaction is done on your account, you automatically get an email, even if you have done the transaction, right? That is a form um, of comfort, that I have done this transaction. Every time I do a transaction, I will get an email from the bank. So once you get an email from the bank saying that, hey, there's a transaction and you haven't done that, then you know you can call the bank. So passwords are key, because if I can leave my credit card on the ground, Pauline, and someone can find it, unless they are lucky or they really got that probability correct, they will be guessing as to what my PIN is. But if I drop my credit card on the ground and my PIN is attached to the back of that credit card, it's game over. So any person who has accessing your account, chances are they were able to access your password, right? The banks will do what they have to do on the back end to make sure everything is secure. And the banks do that because of the nature of the industry we are in. Even some of the treaties and partners we have, they require to see our security and our systems in place. That's not to say that incidents don't occur, but the chances of those incidents occurring are now slimmer than they were in the past, and these incidents are now being able to detect quite quicker than they were in the past, right? They will still get mentioned because, you know, they are newsworthy items. But in terms of the number of transactions being done and the number of times persons have gone online versus the incidence of these things being fraudulently done, it's negligible compared to days of yore.
It's fascinating to learn and to know that, a lot of folks actually write sometimes their passwords on their credit cards. So I think it's an opportunity for us to um, learn this. I think this session is great for folks to learn, because we take for granted that, hey, this is something that is a digital space. There's a lot of new things, but people forget from a memory perspective, and they look for the easiest way to be reminded. So I feel like the passwords in itself could be a whole live show on its own. So for those that are watching this, please don't put your pin number on your card,
Yeah.
please, I beg of you.
What
I think
a
people want to.
password tip a password tip, because particularly if you are being asked, depending on what application it is, if every 3 months you have to refresh your password, put a number, right, in the password. Let's just say it's staple one, right? And then when it comes again, it's staple two, and staple three, and staple four, and staple five. So that way, you just change the number, right? And it will have an easier level of recall, right? But again, that should be known to you and you alone, right? Not to the marish and the parish. Another term there for you, Pauline.
I love it. Linguistics 101. All right.
Yeah.
So, do you have any final sort of ways to share in terms of resources that folks who are watching this can share with their grandparents, their great aunt, their friend? Where can they go to learn more and to be able to sign up for their online banking?
Yeah. So each bank, let's start with each bank's website, and each bank has a online banking service that they will want to onboard as many of their customers on. Trust me. So you can start there. I know BATT, through the work being done like with this particular exercise as well, has some repository of information on their social media platforms. But and so those that's another channel or another place persons can look. But I would say start with each bank and go on their website and look at how to register and the features and benefits of online banking, and start to embrace electronic and digital banking some more. If you don't have a debit card, get that debit card, use the ATM and pause a bit more. And so, you are able to do a lot more of your own banking by yourselves. But start with each bank's website as a first port of call.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information, Kwame. Thanks again for joining us today and sharing insights on whether digital banking is safe for senior citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. If you missed the conversation, spoiler alert, yes, it is safe. Let's educate ourselves. It's so much better now for us to have that access to our funds and be able to have those transactions 24/7. So sign up to be notified on our next live show, because these sessions, I've learned so much, and I'm sure you can as well. Check the link in the comments below to be notified. And as always, be sure to like and follow our page on LinkedIn so you don't miss a single live show. And thank you once again for joining us. See you soon. Bye.